conversation on that for a while.
Thank you, Sunil, for that question. As you're pointing out, as part of the exemption roadmap, we've suggested that the 200% allowance that we have right now for R&D will come down to 150 and then 100%. And that's what you're alluding to when you ask the question. Obviously, we've looked at all the different exemptions and tried to understand what we can do to be able to bring corporate taxes down to 25%, but at the same time, maintain revenue stability. And those are the trade-offs that we have to make to be able to keep the lights on with respect to tax revenues. So that's essentially why we've made the decision. Obviously, as I've said earlier, we are open to discussing and debating that. And so we can certainly sit down and discuss whether that is in fact the right trade-off. But essentially, when you go through and you look at what we can do, we felt that that's where we can get to global best practice, but at the same time, not give up too much on revenues as well. And that's essentially the trade-off we had to make. But again, as I said, let's really think through that, because ultimately, while we have the revenue objective, we also have the competitiveness objective also. So certainly we want to find that balance there as well.
Thank you, sir. Uday, you wanted to ask something?
Sir, when you look at, first of all, compliments on a very good budget. And I think the financial markets really feel enthused by the fact that you maintained fiscal discipline, at the same time not done anything to rock market confidence. As you think about this whole change and restructuring of the state ownership, and you mentioned about some of the steps you're thinking about taking, do you see, and obviously this is much more a directional question than an immediate question, do you see a significant long-term transformation of the financial sector from here going forward?
Uday, as you know much better than I do, the financial sector is in fact being transformed in front of our eyes. I like to remind everyone that during the UPA government, in 10 years, not a single banking license was given out. And in our 2 years, we've given out 23 banking licenses. We've opened up payments in a big way. Certainly, as far as insurance is concerned, we've enabled 49% FDI in insurance. So we, of course, have enabled 49% FDI in the pensions area and investment management in the automatic route as well. So if you look at the different industries in the financial sector, you'll see that there are transformational changes underway. I would then also like to add to something that you know very well about as well, which is what we're doing with the public sector banks and the whole NPA question. The manner in which we are working with the RBI to deal with NPAs, the manner in which we are strengthening, and this is another very important structural change in the economy, which you will all appreciate, I'm sure, is through the bankruptcy code and the insolvency code, what we're doing there, because it's not just a question of bringing in the bankruptcy court and making resolution a lot more efficient. Of course, that's going to happen. That's the first order impact. But the second order impact, ladies and gentlemen, as a capital markets person myself, who's actually traded this in the US extensively, is we are going to significantly strengthen creditor rights. We are going to create a differentiated waterfall through the bankruptcy code in terms of what happens to different creditors in bankruptcy. Right now, what happens in a resolution process to different creditors is indeterminate. But when we create a determination around that and we create a clear, differentiated creditors waterfall in bankruptcy, we really enable the corporate debt market, the bank debt market to work so much better. That will help bonds for sure, but it will also enable bank debt to become a lot more tradable because we have a much better sense of what's going to happen. So you can price the risk and you can create an over-the-counter market on bank debt. I've traded that in the United States. So when your rights, creditor rights are as well protected, you begin to in fact transform how people start to think about their financing structures and so on. I think all of that, Uday, is going to be the combination of all these things that I'm talking about: liberalization of markets, new entrants into the market, a sea change in creditors' rights. All of these things, when you start to add them up, become profoundly important and will really determine the shape of our financial sector over the next 10 or 15 years. And then, of course, finally, we've also said that the public sector banks are going to have to go through a consolidation process. So my own sense, ladies and gentlemen, is that India's financial sector 5 years from now is going to look very different from today.
Thank you, sir. I know there are many questions, but I think in the interest of time, we'll have to call it a day as far as question and answer is concerned. Before I request Mr. Sudhir Jalan, Chairman of Neo Foods, to wrap up and thank the Minister, can I just request everyone here to stand up and acknowledge Mr. Jayant Sinha and the entire Finance Ministry for presenting this outstanding budget.
Shri Jayant Sinha,
Sir.
the distinguished awardees, ladies and gentlemen. First of all, I would like to thank Shri Sinha for two things. For what he has been, for rushing from Parliament, from his work which he was doing for us. When I'm saying us, I mean not only businessmen, but for the nation and for the good of the community. And secondly, as Sanjeev just now said, presenting a budget which is perhaps so simple and yet so inspiring. It is so boring, but so enthusiastic. It is so economically savvy and yet so politically astute. It's a tremendous balancing act, and this is probably the first time in decades I have seen one budget which has not been criticized by anyone. A great tightrope walking. So we particularly commend you for containing the fiscal deficit in very difficult time, reviving the rural sector, the infrastructure sector, allowing the forces of demand to come in, and I'm hoping that this is the starting point of Achhe Din.
It's time to start investing, folks.
Sure. Before I conclude, I would like to again compliment the three very distinguished awardees who have given us this great opportunity of being present with us and honored us. Thank you once again.
Thank you, Mr. Jalan. May I now request Mr. Sanjeev Goenka to kindly present a memento to the Honorable Minister, Mr. Jayant Sinha. Once again, our sincere thanks to the Honorable Minister for having made us very, very proud of having here his presence. We quickly move on to our next session, which is entitled Talent Economy, Creating Global Knowledge and Skills Hub. May I request you all to please remain seated. We are starting with the next session. Ladies and gentlemen, I would also like to inform you all that we will be conducting a live poll